Okay, my live stream is now up. Okie doke. So the live stream is up. Load that up. Here's what we're doing. So the last few weeks, we spent all of our attention and energy on our RPG game making the dialogue system, the ability to have conversations with other people in our world. We're going to shift over from dialogue-based behavior now, make it so that our NPCs can come to life, because our environment is not just one that is static, it's one filled with life and moving things, living things. Our NPCs right now, they stand still like statues. They don't actually do anything. You have to go up to them to initiate dialogue. How cool would it be if those NPCs wandered around the world, going to points of interest, the level that you've designed, and work according to their own navigation approach. So we're going to make that. What's that? Waypoint. Yeah. You did it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this through a waypoint system. How we're going to do it is we're going to make a blueprint called waypoint. And no code will actually go in that blueprint. All of the code today will be on NPC. And the NPC will move around. Okay? Sound good? All right. Let's get started. So empty. No games. It's 41, Victoria. Good morning. He is not present here. Okay, what room should I send him to? 801? Okay, got it. Thanks. Alrighty, guys. All right, we're starting the lesson. First thing you're going to do, go to the lower left, hit Add New, and choose Blueprint class. We're making a new blueprint. When this menu comes up, what do we usually pick? Actor 99% of the time. And we're gonna do that this time as well. Choose Actor, Blueprint class Actor. And name the new blueprint Waypoint. Name it Waypoint. Now, drag this waypoint from the content browser, this new blueprint, into the world maybe like 6 or 7 times. We're not actually going to open up this blueprint. We're not coding the waypoint. The waypoint is just a blank blueprint. That's okay. So I'll repeat that one more time. We did add new blueprint class, actor, named it waypoint, and you've dragged a few waypoints into your world. The idea of the waypoint is that these are possible locations that our NPCs will walk over to. So even though I have this boring gray level, you don't, because you did your level design, hopefully. And you can put these waypoints by points of interest. We could code it so that they go to any random coordinate in the world, but that's actually not very believable or lifelike. Because when you go somewhere as a person, as a conscious entity, you also abide by the waypoint rule. You go to waypoints. For example, there's a waypoint at your seat, at your computer right now. That's why you're frequently going there. There's a waypoint by the front door, there's a waypoint by the back door, there's a waypoint by my desk. And so you can expect that you also go over there as well. Very few of you have ever been to the back of the room. It's as valid a place as everywhere else in the room, but there's no waypoints located there. There's no points of interest. Therefore, you tend not to wander over there. So that's why we make the waypoint. All right, I want you to open up your NPC blueprint. You're going to start on an empty area of graph on your NPC blueprint. Donovan, unless you're wishlisting Akhenaten rule as Pharaoh, Steam needs to be closed.
I mean, I am.
Okay. All right. Here we are on an empty area of graph. We're going to do a custom event. Type in custom event. Choose add custom event. Name the custom event AI wander. This is where all of our code that governs the AI wandering around is going to live. It's going to live in this custom event. So custom event, add custom event, AI wander. And the next part's a really useful node, okay? Trey knows what I'm talking about. It's called get all actors of class. Drag off, look up get all actors of class. What get all actors of class does. Actually, Trey, do you want to say what it does? What does it do? And what do you mean by actor? What's an actor, in case people don't know? That's about right. Yeah, he's right. So an actor is anything in the world. It's the most generic thing ever. Okay, everything, this floor, this NPC, the waypoint, the sky, they're all actors because they're all in our scene, right? Actors in a scene, that's kind of the idea. What get all actors of class does is it will get all of the instances of a particular type, a blueprint type, and spit those out in the form of an array, in the form of a list. So if you want to get all the NPCs, you would select class, choose NPC. If you want to get all the third-person characters, you choose third-person character. If you want to get all the static meshes in your world and set all their material to grass, whatever you want to do, right? Or maybe there's some like superpower your player can do. Get all actors of class, get all the static meshes, and set them all to be the collision to be off or something, right? You could do that. So you walk through walls, whatever, okay? So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to get all of the waypoints. So where it says select class, filter for waypoint. So on get all actors of class, we want to select class and look up our waypoint, the blueprint we just made. All right. And you see this is that waffle looking icon, this square waffle. This is our array, the list that it's going to spit out of all the waypoints that happen to be in the current level. So we're going to drag off this array, and choose get. Get a copy is what you're doing. So what get does is it gets one item from an array, one item from a list. This number is going to be which item it's getting from the list. Right now it's getting waypoint number 0, the first waypoint. We don't want to always get the first waypoint. We want, of course, it to be random. So drag off of this green circle and look up random. And you're going to choose random integer in range. In range. Why in range? Because that way you can control where the random numbers come from. We don't want to have 6 waypoints, but the random number come out as random number 11, right? Because there is no 11th waypoint. So by this, we're going to limit the random numbers to be between the first one, which is going to be 0, right? Minimum 0. And the maximum, which is going to be what? What's our maximum going to be?
Give me the maximum number.
He says however many you have. So I could be like, oh, what do I have? I have 7. Okay, I'm going to put in 7 for max, right? And you go, oh, no, I have 4. And you're putting 4 for max. Does that seem like the best way of doing it? Mara, I see your head shaking no. What do you think we could do? Ooh, he's getting all array crazy with me. Yeah, you're right. So what he said, Mark said, is what you should do is get whatever the maximum of the list minus 1 is what he's saying, because we're starting on 0. So if this list is has 35 actors in it, the last one in it is going to be 34. So he's saying put the number before this. So this minus 1. Now, we can actually make our lives a lot easier though than even that. If I decide later on as a level designer, or someone else on the team decides, okay, hey, let's make another waypoint over by this well, the town well, some NPCs can wander to, and he copies and pastes a waypoint like that and like that. then he's got to go back in this code and readjust this maximum number. That's not very efficient. It's hard to keep track of, and it kind of throws coding into the level design process. What we should instead do is just say, what is the length of this list? How many items are in this list? Whatever number of items are in this list, plug that into max. And that's what we're going to do. So you could either do length -1 and plug that into max, which is what I used to do in this lesson, or do something I discovered is better, do last index, and that'll be the correct number. So drag off out actors and look up last index and plug that into max. Again, what's great about that is if you have 2 waypoints, it's only going to look to pick a number, a random number between 0 and 1, or 1 or 2, whatever. If you have 50,435 waypoints, then that number is going to be the max number. So it's always going to pick a correct random number for the waypoints you have. All right, let's continue our code. On this get all actions of class node, we have the sideways triangle to continue the flow of logic. Drag a wire off of that. And now we're going to look up the node called AI move to. This is responsible for moving characters from one location to another. AI move to, that's what you're looking up. AI move to has a few settings on it. The first one says pawn. Okay, anybody know what it means by pawn? All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Anybody else? What does pawn mean? Pawn is one of those really, I think, kind of badly named classes in Unreal. What they mean is, like in a chessboard, right? You have pawns. Okay, pawn is the most basic form of a character. So anytime you have a character blueprint or any sort of thing that's inhabitable, it's going to be a pawn type. So what they mean by this is, hey, pawn, who is actually moving? Who's moving to whatever destination you're sending it to? That's what it means by pawn, okay? Who is doing the moving in this case? The NPC. All right, next question. Where are we coding this on? The NPC. So it's the NPC itself that's moving? Yep, drag off pawn and look up self. It's a reference to itself. So drag off pawn, look up self. Get reference to self. Now you have destination. That's exact coordinates. Again, we could have picked a random vector, a random coordinate for that, but that's not as good as having these waypoints that we can put wherever we want, move around, and then those become the locations. So we're going to skip destination and instead go for target actor. What do we plug into target actor? The get. Exactly. The get from before, that's going to be the target actor. So drag a wire from get into target actor. Acceptance radius is how far away he'll get from the object before kind of like deciding, okay, that's enough, I'm there. Right now it's at 5, which means 5 centimeters. It's a little bit too specific. Let's change it to 100 centimeters. That way, if he's just in the general area of the waypoint, the on success node will fire and it'll be considered a success that he's gotten there. All right, on AI move to, you have these other nodes. One's called on success, the other one's called on fail. On fail will be triggered if the waypoint that he is being sent to is in an impossible to get to location. If it's an impossible to get to location, on fail will get triggered. Well, if on fail gets triggered, we don't want our NPC then to just stand where he was at and never go anywhere else again. So let's recall our AI wander code so that he looks for another waypoint, hopefully this time one that is possible to get to. It is actually possible to get to, and he'll go there. So drag off on fail and recall AI wander. So on fail, and you're recalling the name of your custom event AI wander. So that way, if it fails, again, it just goes back here. All right, for on success, let's make it so that he waits once he gets to the waypoint by a certain amount of time. How do we make code wait? What's the node? He got it, delay, not tick. Delay is the node. Yeah, really useful node. Drag off on success and look up delay. And do delay. The delay has a duration, and it is a certain number of seconds. Should we leave this as a fixed number of seconds, or can we get a little bit more creative with this? Why don't we do a random? Why don't we do random in range again? So drag off the duration for the delay and do random in range. Yeah, random float in range, because this is a decimal type variable. Yep, random float in range. And the minimum maximum, up to you. I'm going to set my minimum to 1 second and my maximum to 5 seconds. So he's going to wait for some number of seconds between 1 and 5. Next thing you're going to do, drag off of delay, off the completed, and let's recall AI Wander. AI Wander, so you're recalling AI Wander. So after this certain amount of seconds, it's going to recall the event, and he's going to continue to go look for waypoints. And that's it for this block of custom code. However, we need to trigger all of this code to happen at least once to start it. What's nice about it is it is self-calling after that, right? AI Wander eventually leads to AI Wander again, and so it loops just like that. But we need to start it the first time. So what event can we use that is really good for starting something? Say that louder. Begin play. Yeah, begin play is an event that happens right at the beginning of the game. So right click and look up begin play. Event begin play. Now drag off begin play and look up AI Wander. You know what though? Let's give ourselves even more options as designers. Let's give ourselves the ability to turn the wandering code off on some NPCs. This is particularly useful for things like quest giving NPCs, right? You don't want them wandering off to some random waypoints and your character not being able to find them. So let's do that in the form of a Boolean variable that will show up in our details panel that we will be able to check mark on and off. So in the lower left, click plus variable. The new variable, name it stay in place. So plus variable in the lower left, name it stay in place. And make sure the variable type is a Boolean. That means it's checked or unchecked. And then hit compile in the top left. Make sure it's a variable type Boolean. That's the check mark or unchecked variable. True or false. All right, what you're going to do, drag your stay in place variable onto your graph. Do get stay in place. And right over here by begin play, let's move AI Wander over to the side for a second. Once you drag stay in place onto your graph, you chose get, drag off of that and choose branch. Branch. So we got branch. So drag the front of begin play into the front of branch. And what branches do is they say, hey, do one thing if something's true, or do something else if that thing is false. So if stay in place is true, are we going to call AI Wander? What's that? No, we're not. If it's stay in place is true, hey, stay in place. We're not going to have him wander. But if it's false, we are going to let him wander. So drag off false and plug that into your AI Wander code. That's it for the coding part. There's one more thing we need to do on the NPC, which is all our NPCs will run at full speed. We don't want that. It doesn't look natural. We want them to walk to their waypoints. So click on character movement on the left. Click on character movement on the left. And in the details panel on the right, scroll. Actually, just search it up. Look up speed. You want to set its max walk speed from 600, which is what it's at, to 150. 150 is going to make it a lot slower and walk a lot more natural. So set it from 600 max walk speed to 150. Hit compile, and now you can go into the front of Unreal. That's it for the character stuff. There's one more thing, though, that we have to do for any of our NPCs to actually move around the world. It's called bringing in something called a nav mesh. A nav mesh is just a big box. You stretch out to the size of the world where they can walk, and that nav mesh tells the NPCs where they can walk and where they can't, where the obstacles are, things like that. So in the front of Unreal, in the modes panel on the left, type in NAV and drag nav mesh bounds volume out into your world. So modes panel left, look up NAV, nav mesh bounds volume, drag that out into your world. And what you're going to do is you're going to scale it. Stretch it so that it's as big as the whole area where the NPCs can walk around in. So you're going to make this big invisible box bigger by scaling it. Don't scale it to the whole size of your landscape if you happen to have a landscape, because it will make your game lag if you make it disgustingly large, which everybody does at some point. So, that's that. However, if you are doing a big open world game, there are ways to kind of cheat around that and still have a big, huge world, but not have it lag because of so many nav meshes. And to do that is to have nav mesh zones that are connected by the nav meshes. I'll show you that right now. But first, before you do that, press the P key on your keyboard. When you press P for path, all the areas that the NPCs can walk will turn green. If you don't see anything, then make sure that your nav mesh is actually touching the floor. It's important. It has to be touching or in the floor. So the green areas are areas that it can walk. So if you're doing a big open world game, what I would do is have habitable zones. So here would be like another zone right here. You're like, well, how do my NPCs get over here? How do they get to the waypoints that are going to be in this box? Well, I'd connect it with just a smaller pathway. And what's kind of cool is this is a way of making your NPCs travel in really unique ways. You can say, you can give them these kind of limits where, you know, he's got to either go this way or this way, and stuff like that. This waypoint here, since it's outside the nav mesh, will never be traveled to. This is outside the nav mesh. So if it gets picked in the random choicing, it will throw that on fail event. But that doesn't matter because then he'll just be immediately told to go to some other waypoint, so it's good. All right, if you've done all that, you can press P to turn that off or leave it on. P just toggles it. Hit play and see if you have NPCs roaming your world. Wow, you train them to subscribe to .war Games and donate to its Patreon?
Wait, it has a Patreon account?
In the works, it does. In the works.
Have you ever heard of a game company called Godware Games? The guy that those studios made Shovel Knight and whatnot?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah. They're making two more games.
Awesome. All right, that's it. That was a lesson, right? Not so bad. Now you got people in your world. All right, who needs help where it's not working? It's almost always, yeah, that's usually it. So if it's not working, okay. Does it work moving around?
No, we'll see.
Oh, man!
Hey, success.
I talked to here.
Yeah,
But they don't do something about it.
that was quick, actually. Feel good about it, though? Not what I was implying at all. Feel good about it?
Well, there's someone but then worried. Not for me.
Yeah. Hey guys, just so you know, remember you have the ability to turn some of the NPCs off. If you don't want them to move around, just check mark, stay in place variable. I don't know if I said this, but you gotta open up the eyeball icon on that variable in order to see it.
I'm just gonna have to deal with the situation. Because I was watching like emotionally, nervous, and thinking about it.
You're gonna handle it surely.
I have, well, like, but not like this, you know, I have to be extra part that hurt. Like, we just say, what is it?
Yeah.
And now it's like a proper golden lighting.
So that scared me, I was like, oh, I'm on my record, you know,
Finding quality.
it's not like Joe, she's over this.
Did you stop your license?
Sitting down, we just finished up. All right, anybody else need help? Is it not working? Help distract. So, follow along. I was a man in high school.
YMCA?
Well, you know, yeah, I played the fire.
What do you know?
You just don't see it. No one can see it, but I thought I was gonna be really like.
That's one of the business costs.
Okay, you didn't want me, that's fine. But Joseph, you were. All right, man. I'm here to help.
Yes. Hey, you guys want to boy, Brooklyn River? Let's do album drops.
Yeah.
On SoundCloud.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.